I had seen my share of scary things while working as an ER nurse, but this was different. It was 3 a.m., and I was rounding on my patients in the pediatric unit when I saw it. It was then that I realized the scariest monsters aren't always lurking under your bed or hiding in your closet. Sometimes they stand right next to you, smiling with innocent eyes. If you turn around for even a moment, they might just be gone. As a nurse, I'm trained to remain calm no matter what comes through those double doors. Over the years, I've seen it all. From drug overdoses and suicides to homicides and the occasional plane crash victim brought in by helicopter. I can still remain professional when confronted with death itself. But one thing I never expected to see was a shadow that followed me around the hospital. A shadow that seemed to have its own agenda and sinister motives. The night it happened, I had just finished my shift in the emergency room and was heading home. As I walked through the deserted hospital corridors, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. I tried to dismiss it as fatigue and stress, but the uneasy feeling only intensified. Then I saw it. A tall, dark shadow detached from the wall as I passed by. I paused, confused, and turned back, but there was nothing there. Was I losing my mind? Had I worked too many double shifts in a row? I continued my walk home, telling myself it was just my imagination playing tricks. The shadow returned, appearing behind me and mimicking my movements. I tried to rationalize it away, but fear began to take hold. I picked up my pace, then broke into a run. The shadow matched my stride for stride. I turned down a dimly lit hallway. I could feel its presence behind me, its darkness pressing closer. When I finally reached the exit, the shadow was gone. Outside, the night was filled with the sounds of crickets and distant traffic. I hurried to my car, heart pounding. As I got in and locked the doors, I noticed something. In the rearview mirror, there was the shadow again, standing directly behind my car, seeming to mock me. With its silent menace, I started the engine and drove away. But wherever I went, so did the shadow. It followed me down streets, across parks, and even onto the highway. Its silent persistence unnerved me. On the highway, cars whizzed past, momentarily illuminating the road ahead. In the brief flashes of their headlights, I saw it keeping pace. It didn't belong on the road, yet it moved with the traffic. I pressed on, desperately hoping to shake it off. But the longer it followed, the more determined I became to confront it. Finally, I stopped the car and turned to face the shadow. It stood motionless, a dark silhouette against the twilight sky. I stepped out of the car and approached it cautiously. As I drew nearer, details began to emerge. The shadow wasn't just a formless darkness. It had shape, a twisted, gnarled form that seemed to writhe like a living creature. I stared at it, mesmerized and horrified. Its surface was a shifting landscape of darkness, and within that darkness, I saw faces that twisted and grimaced, eyes that burned like hot coals, and mouths that gaped open in silent screams. The realization struck me like a physical blow. This was no ordinary shadow. It was a harbinger of evil, a manifestation of something dark and malevolent. Fear, cold and paralyzing, gripped me, but I forced myself to stay where I was. My mind raced, trying to comprehend what I was seeing. Was this a hallucination, a trick of the light, or something more sinister? I had always been skeptical of the supernatural, dismissing stories of shadows and darkness as mere superstition. But now, faced with the chilling reality of my situation, I questioned everything I thought I knew. What I had initially dismissed as nonsense echoed in my ears. Could there really be malevolent entities that preyed on human fear? Was I about to become their next victim? Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the shadow began to recede. It pulled back, becoming less defined, until it was nothing more than a dark smudge on the edge of my vision. It retreated further, disappearing from sight, leaving me alone in the growing darkness. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. I soon realized that the disappearance of the main shadow had brought forth smaller ones. Countless shadows that danced and writhed around me, taunting me with their silent mockery. They slithered over the ground, twisting and turning in ways that defied logic and reason. They seemed to take pleasure in my terror, reveling in the depths of my despair. With each passing moment, the shadows grew bolder, swarming around me, enveloping me in their suffocating darkness. I stumbled back, desperate to break free of their suffocating embrace. But the more I struggled, the tighter their grip became. I felt myself slipping away, my consciousness fading as the shadows closed in. Suddenly, a piercing whistle cut through the oppressive darkness. The shadows froze as if caught in a display of eternal torment. Then, to my utter disbelief, they began to vanish, dissolving into wisps of darkness that floated away on the night breeze. One by one, they disappeared until the only darkness left was the one that enveloped me. I collapsed to my knees, trembling uncontrollably. The ordeal had drained me, leaving me weak and shaken. But as the adrenaline ebbed away, a chilling realization crept upon me. The whistle hadn't driven the shadows away. It had summoned them. And whoever or whatever had blown that whistle was now approaching. I looked up, my eyes searching the darkness. That's when I saw him. Standing before me was a figure as dark and menacing as the shadows themselves. His face was hidden in the gloom, but I could sense his malevolent presence like a predator that had singled me out for the kill. Terror surged through me. Then he spoke, his voice a low guttural growl that seemed to shake the very foundations of my being. "So you found me," he said. And in that moment I understood. The shadow that had followed me, the twisted entity I had confronted, they were all connected to this man, to the darkness that emanated from him. He advanced toward me, each step bringing me closer to the abyss. I tried to speak, to scream for help, but no sound came out. My voice was trapped in my throat, imprisoned by the icy grip of fear. I wanted to run, to escape the suffocating darkness that threatened to consume me, but my legs felt like lead. I was rooted to the spot, unable to move, unable to flee. And then he was upon me, his presence overwhelming, his darkness seeping into my very being. I braced for the worst, for the final embrace of oblivion. But instead of striking me down, he did something that both shocked and terrified me. He smiled. It was a smile that revealed teeth that were long and sharp like the fangs of a predator. And in that instant, I knew I was facing something beyond human comprehension, something that thrived in the darkest depths of our world. This was no ordinary man. He was a conduit to the shadows, a harbinger of the darkness that lurked at the edge of our perception. And as his smile widened, I saw not just teeth, but a glimpse of the abyss. Within that abyss, I saw countless eyes staring back at me, each one a window into a realm of suffering and torment. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. I was transfixed by the horror that unfolded before my eyes. And then he leaned closer, his hot, fetid breath washing over me like a wave of decay. "Join me," he whispered, his voice a silken caress that belied the terror he inspired. "Embrace the darkness. Become one with the shadows." I struggled against the unseen forces that pulled me toward him, toward the swirling vortex of darkness that beckoned from the depths. But the more I resisted, the stronger the pull became, until I felt myself torn, my very essence being dragged toward the abyss. I screamed, my voice echoing the torment of countless souls lost to the darkness. But my cries went unheard, swallowed by the suffocating shadows that enveloped me. And then I was falling, plunging into the heart of the darkness, the last vestiges of my humanity slipping away with every descent. As the shadows consumed me, I felt a strange sense of peace. It was the peace of one who has surrendered to the inevitable, the tranquility of a soul that has accepted its fate. And as the darkness closed in around me, I knew that I was not merely disappearing. I was becoming something else, something born of the shadows, something that would forever walk among the darkness. My transformation was complete. I was now a creature of the night, forever bound to the shadows.